Alright guys, so let's talk about another scenario in this tutorial. And in this tutorial, we are basically going to talk about overloading the varargs type method. Is it a good idea to overload the methods which is accepting varargs as a parameter? So if you go with the Java documentation, it says that overloading the method with vararg type argument is always not a good idea. We will explore the reason why in this particular tutorial. But let me start with this tutorial with a very simple example. So let's talk about a method. Let's say void m1 again. So let's say is accepting an integer type array, and let's give it a dummy implementation system.out.println. Um, let's say m1 method um, array args called, and let's have another m1 method here, but this time let's say this is accepting an int varargs type argument, let's say int a, and let me copy this out and paste it over here, and let's say um, varargs called. Okay, let it be. So if you talk about this kind of scenario, so this is a very simple thing that you can guess. If I will run this particular program, it will give me compilation error. The reason for that is very simple. See, this triple dot is actually an single dimensional array, right? I told you in the first tutorial that so these three ellipses here is going to work as a single dimensional array. So this thing is same as this, right? So if I will compile this particular program, obviously I'm going to get uh, an compilation error, right? So let me compile this particular program. Let me say javac var case dot java, and you can see I'm getting a compilation error over here. So if I will zoom it a bit, so you can see the error over here. I cannot declare both this method together because as you have discussed, the meaning of this method and this method is exactly same. And as you can see the error, it is just saying me cannot declare both m1 method of vararg types and m1 method with int array type in a var case, right? So at a time, I cannot declare two methods like this. All right, this is very simple. All right, so now let's talk about the most important thing. Why overloading the vararg types method is not actually a good idea. Why Java says that overloading the vararg types method is not actually a good approach. So let's talk about it right now. So what I'm going to do over here, let me delete this thing and let me create a method called sum. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to accept a int type argument as a parameter. So this is compulsory. And after that, you can pass any number of argument. I'm taking a vararg over here, and let's say numbers. Okay. And let me give it an implementation. So let me say int sum equal to whatever the number that the user passed first. Let's say a. And after that, I'm going to fetch all the numbers that user passed from this. So I'll say here int temp, and my array name is numbers, and I'm going to add it sum plus temp, and I'm going to assign it with this sum again. So we have already discussed about it in our first tutorial. So exactly the same thing that I'm doing over here. And at last, let me return this sum here. Okay, so this is void. Let me change it to int. And similarly, let me overload this particular sum method. Let's say I'm creating another sum method here, and in this time, what I'm going to do, I will make compulsory to enter two values. So I am accepting two different arguments of int type, and this you must pass this. And then actually I am going to allow the user to pass any number of numbers. So I'm taking a var args over here, and let me say numbers, and there you go. And here what I'm going to do first, I'm going to add this a and b, and I'm going to assign it to a variable called sum, and then I'm going to fetch all the numbers from the array. So let's say 4 here, and I'm going to say int temp, and let's say temp here, and let's say numbers. Okay, and I'm actually going to add the temp with the existing number, that is sum, and after that I'm going to assign this sum with this. Okay, and at last, as we know, we have to return this sum here, right? So actually I have two different overloaded method where I have used this var arg types argument as well, right? So is this a good approach? First of all, let me do one thing. Let me compile this particular program. So let me clear this thing. So let me clear these things first. All right. So now, first of all, let me compile this particular program. So I'll save this particular program and I'll compile this. So let me say java c var case.java. So as you can see, it compiles fine, right? JVM does not complain about it. But now let's check this out. If I'm going to call one of this particular method, what is going to happen, right? So JVM does not have any problem as of now. We have already compiled the program and we have seen it's executing fine, right? So now let me create the object of this particular class and call one of its method. Let's say varcase be equal to new var new varcase, and p dot sum, and let's say I'm passing 10, 12, and 13 here. So now which particular method will be get called? Will it be this or will it be this? Okay. So first of all, let's say I'm putting a system.out.println here, and let me say this first sum method, and again let me copy this and paste it over here, and let me say this um, second sum method. All right, so now which particular method will be got called, the first one or the second one? So technically if we'll say this 10, 12, and 13, okay, so this particular method can handle it well. 10 and 12 and 13, the first element will be 10, that's fine. Then 12 and 13, well, this particular varargs can handle these two particular values, right? And what about this? Okay, so now JVM says, okay, this particular method is going to work fine. Okay, so what about this? If you talk about this 10, okay, the first value is 10. 12, the second value is 12, fine. Then the 13, well, this method also can take one arguments. It can also handle 13. So these three values can be fit into this particular method and this particular method as well. So if you're going to compile this particular program, JVM is going to confuse which method to execute, and it is going to give you an ambiguous, and compile time error, as saying that both the methods are ambiguous to each other. All right, so now let me compile this particular program. So let me say Java C. My class name is varcase. So I'll say varcase.java, and you can see I'm getting a compilation error. It is saying the reference to sum is ambiguous, right? You can see the reference to sum is ambiguous. You can see this line here. This because of this piece of code that I have written here. So actually, whenever I'm trying to use one of this particular method, I'm getting problem, right? But if I'm not writing this particular code, if I'm commenting this out, there is no problem. JVM is saying you can write this kind of two methods, but JVM is having problem whenever I'm trying to use one. For an example, if I'm commenting this particular line, as I have already told you, right now here, if I'm going to compile the program, is compiling fine, right? But when I'm trying to use it, if I remove the code, remove the comment from here, and if again I'm going to compile the program, I'm having problem. So whenever I'm trying to use one of the method, I'm having problem, right? So this is one of the reason why you need to be so careful whenever you are trying to work with overloading the vararg types argument method. All right. Well, so this is it for this tutorial. Well, there is one more thing that I am having in my mind right now, but I'll give you the explanation might be in the next tutorial, but I just cannot stop myself to say one more thing. So let me remove all this code here. Okay, so let me quickly show you one more scenario. Maybe you'll get this question in your interview, so I don't want you to miss this question. So let me tell you that. But it's already midnight here, it's 1 o'clock, so I need to do this thing quickly because I need to get up early tomorrow morning. So okay, so let's talk about it very quickly. So let's say I'm defining a method m1 here, and in this m1 method I'm um, taking a vararg types object uh, here, let's say object o inside the m1 method, and let me give it a implementation system.out.println, and let me say it um, inside m1 method. All right. Okay, so let's say I have a method like this, and now let me call this particular method. First of all, I need to create an object. So let's say varcase v equal to new varcase, and v dot m1. Okay, so first of all, here I want to pass three argument here: null, null, null. So null can be stored within a object, right? So the object default value is null, as you guys know already. So if I will pass this thing to this m1 method, is it going to be called, or am I going to get compilation error? Well, obviously this particular method will be get called because this null can be fit into this object type here. So if I'll compile this particular program, well, first of all, let me clear these things off. All right, so now let me compile this particular program. Let me say varcase, I mean javac varcase.java. Now, as you can see, this compiles fine. So right now, if I will remove one null, is it going to work fine or not? Obviously this is going to work fine, right? Because this can handle any number of arguments. So I'm passing two different null over here. So right now if I'll save this and if I will run this again, this is working fine, this compiles fine, as you can see over here. But what if I'm going to pass something like this? Is it going to work or not? Obviously, it doesn't matter how many elements we pass, right? This method should work, right? We should be able to take any kind of arguments, I mean any number of arguments, right? But let me compile this particular program. Let me save it again, and let me compile this particular program. And as you can see, I am getting an error. So whenever I'm passing one null here to this particular method, this is just making a complaint, right? So actually I'm going to talk about it in the next tutorial. So today I'm going to stop the recording right now. How to solve this thing also I'll tell you in the next tutorial. But okay, so let me just give you the solution for this. You can solve this thing by passing this null as an object array, and I can put the I can put the parenthesis here. I can put the curly braces over here, and right now if I'll compiles, this is gonna compiles fine, and if I'm gonna run also, this is going to run fine, right? So I can see inside m1 method is I'm getting in the output console, right? So I'm going to tell you the reason in the next tutorial. So thank you very much guys for watching this tutorial. And if you like this tutorial, don't forget to like this tutorial, and also you can subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. So thank you very much guys. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Be happy and keep smiling. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye and happy coding.